when she comes around that corner, she gets to screaming. And this ain't let me see your hands type of screaming. This is a horror movie scream. And that's not what Tina does. That's not my Tina. At which point, I see Norm. He's shot. All right, he's been shot in the face. He's dead. And at this point, I look down, I see that, and I look over, and I see Craig Redden shooting at the door. There was a guy I was in the military with, and he was intense. All right, just intense. I don't care what the job was. I don't care what the target was. It was getting done. It was going to get done, period. There was days I hated the guy, just hated him. And there are other days like, I can't believe we actually just did this. We literally moved a trailer, and I say a trailer, a house trailer, with about 100 guys. We picked it up, and he figured out how we were going to do it, and we literally picked it up with our hands. Then we did it because he said we could. And I'm like, well, okay, I want to be that guy. And then January 6th kind of told me why I need to be that guy. A line of duty funeral for one officer is all hands on deck, pull out all the stops and make this happen. And this is a national event. We have officers coming from across the world, and this is going to be huge. And we know this, and we have to do it right. For myself personally, I knew two of the officers. Right after Zamarripa's funeral, he was the last one. I came back to South Central. I went back there into the equipment room, and I lost it for about 5 minutes, and then you went home, and you're like, hopefully we never have to do that again, because, it was just an emotional week.
You're listening to the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, brought to you by the Assist the Officer Foundation. Since 1999, the ATO has given assistance to the first responder community, and now we want to give a platform to hear their incredible stories. We also want to hear the stories of the many people that support us. Our community is small, but it is strong. We have differences. We don't always agree, and we all make mistakes. But together we can grow, we can heal, and we can learn from those mistakes. And together we can bridge the divide. Welcome back, ATO listeners. I want to take a quick moment to talk about the Assist the Officer Foundation. ATO was created in 1999 to assist first responders and their families financially in times of sickness, injury, or death in the family. The ATO also provides confidential mental health sessions for police and fire. The ATO is a nonprofit, and if you want to donate to the ATO, go to atodallas.org, look us up, and donate to our cause. It'd be greatly appreciated by our first responders. I want to give a special thanks to the Syndicate Ski and Cycle Shop in Colorado and the North Carolina SWAT team for their constant support and feedback. It's greatly appreciated. You guys be safe. Before I welcome on our next guest, I want to read a little excerpt. Motivation is the art of getting people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. Dwight D. Eisenhower. Having actually worked for today's guest, I can attest to his leadership style. I've watched his career from afar, going from Southwest Patrol to the gang unit to Southwest and South Central deployments, and also commanded the CRTs, then becoming a fish out of water in personnel and recruiting. He helped completely revamp this personnel unit, and by the way, packed an academy class and record recruit attendance in a time that's extremely difficult to recruit police. He is a motivator as a leader. He doesn't mind making the tough decisions. He's a former Army vet, huge comic nerd like myself, husband to Holly and father to Jesse and Savannah, and a newly appointed Deputy Chief of Police. It's my honor to welcome on Chief Jeremy Foy.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thanks. That was impressive.
Yeah. I figured you would like that, especially the comic nerd part.
Yeah, the comic nerd part I'm glad you included.
Yeah. All right, you ready to dive into this?
Sure.
All right, you're on the ATO stage. Born and raised in Louisiana, You were military police from 93 to 98. When did you decide you wanted to pursue a career in law enforcement, and why?
Well, I was 16 years old, and I was bagging groceries at a grocery store, and we had an off-duty officer working out there, and he was extremely overweight and extremely old, but he didn't talk to nobody. And one day, I see him moving quickly across the store, and there was a guy walking out the doors, and he was stopping. He was a shoplifter, and when he tried to stop him, the guy took off running. When the guy took off running, he made about 3 steps, and he was done. And for whatever reason, he started running. I started running, and we went around the block. And I don't know. I remember even thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do when I catch this guy. And we went probably a half mile, and then I got close to him, and I pushed him, and he fell down. I jumped on top of him, and we laid there for a little bit, and finally the big fat guy showed up and put him in handcuffs. And when I got done, I thought this was the coolest thing I've ever done. And I was 16. And after that, I'm like, I think I want to do this for a living. And here I am.
So you made your first arrest as a 16-year-old?
Bagging groceries, yes.
Yeah, nice.
Hey,
all right.
it was fun.
Well, these days, I'd probably fire you right after that as working at a grocery store. You were in the Army. Did you consider staying in the Army, just pursuing a career in that?
Oh, absolutely. Once I got in, I realized I liked that kind of stuff, the uniform work, right? And the Army was one of those places you could work as hard or as little as you wanted. A 12-hour day or a 16-hour day or an 8-hour day. You got paid the same either way. And I liked the work. I just did. And it felt like you were – sometimes it was busy work. I mean, it was the Army. But you always had a goal. And whatever that goal might be, it might be something silly, but it was like, okay, we're going to, clean the vehicles today. It might have been dumb, but it was a goal. And that's what you did. And then we all worked as a team, and, there was a hierarchy, and, people told you what to do, and you might not have liked it, but you did it.
Yeah, knowing you throughout your career, you like goals, you like structure, and you like team settings. And we're going to get into some of those later, those teams you were on later on, and also just basically your structure that you like. And what I believe that you running the honor guard for all those years, and then now the way you lead and command units, I believe it goes back to your time in the Army. Why'd you pick Dallas, Texas? Did you have Texas ties?
Not a one. While I was in school and I getting close to graduation, I knew I wanted to work for a bigger agency. I just didn't know where, or the feds. I was kind of open to anything. And while I was going to school, I had applied to 47 different places, and I remember that number because I got told no 46 times.
Wow!
Right, or didn't get the call back. And Dallas had come to Louisiana, where I'm from, and did a recruiting fair, and then we tested at Grambling University. And they were moving quickly, and I needed a job, and here I am. I wasn't opposed to it. I really had San Antonio in my sights, but they drug their feet. Now, they called me once I was in the academy, but I was already here. I was here now.
What were some other major departments you apply for?
I had done the U.S. Marshals, the Border Patrol, the ATF, and I never continued the process because they're very slow. It takes their time. I had applied in San Antonio. Houston was on the next list, and if you name a department in North Louisiana, I applied at some point. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I just looking for a job.
Did you go any West Coast or any kind of Northeast?
No, I didn't go that far out yet. I wouldn't. I hadn't got in my mind that desperate yet.
Yeah.
Right. It was getting to that point though. Right. So I wanted a job in a big city. So
here you are.
Yep.
I think it worked out. You got married in 2001 and you started DPD. What was your impressions of our academy?
I'd been out of the military for a couple years at this point, and in my mind, I was going back to military boot camp, I thought, or basic training. And when I got here, I realized that's not what the police department's about, which was fine. All the military vets in the class are going, why can't these people understand? Just stand to the right of the hallway. And then all the people that weren't in the military going, why do we have to stand to the right of the hallway? Just silly stuff like that. But it was paramilitary. We did have to do push-ups occasionally, and stuff like that. And it wasn't hard at the time, but it wasn't the physical portion wasn't hard. The tactical portion wasn't hard. I kind of been through training very similar to that. Now, the academics, I was surprised that the academics were going to be as tough as they were. And I say tough, that it was as in depth as it was.
I was too.
But it's necessary. So
of course. So you graduate, you get out to Southwest. You mentioned in your bio, giving a little peek behind the curtain to some listeners. I send out bios. People just get some bullet points on some of these guests. In 2002, a guy shot at your head. Can you describe that incident?
So I had I've been at Southwest at that point for, I don't know, about 7 months, I guess, 6 or 7 months. I had just got done with field training, and I'm on what we call Little T here, where you ride with a senior partner. And I am riding with currently Sergeant Amy Smith. She is one class ahead of me, so she's 2 months ahead of me, so that's the seniority portion of our partnership, right? So neither one of us really know what we're doing at this point. And we're over at one of the state streets in South Oak Cliff. I don't remember which one. But we're taking a kidnapping report. And it's a non-custodial father is taking the kid or whatnot. And that's we're just doing the paperwork. And I sent a bolo out to Channel 3 or Southeast and Southwest because we're close to the border. And we're sitting up in front of the house typing the report when a shooting call comes in over at 1300 East Waco. So I look over at Amy, and I'm still not real familiar with the division, and I'm still learning this job. And I asked Amy, I was like, aren't we close to that? And she's like, I think so. So we're flipping through the maps that's before we had the GPS
Maps
and stuff.
go,
Yeah. And we take off, and she's driving, and I mean, Amy is doing 100 miles an hour to this location, right? It's a good time. And when we get there, Kurt Hibbets is the first one on the scene. Now, I don't know, at this time, I don't know Kurt at all. But he was one of the heavy hitters of Southwest at the time. And, you know, when you come on, you learn who the heavy hitters of your division are because they're always getting into something. There's always calling for help, and I say calling for help. They're calling for an assist because they're in a car chase or they're running after somebody. And while I was on field training, you know, you listen to the radio and the guys you're riding with aren't those guys, right?
Yeah.
Because they're teaching you, and you know you gotta go at a much slower pace. But when we get there, he's already at the scene, and we've got a man and a woman both been shot. They're on the curb, not fatal. One's in the stomach, one's in the arm, I believe. And he looks at us and he's like, he's inside the house. Y'all get the back. So me and Amy jump around back. You know, we're good little rookies, you know. We're doing what we're told. Mm-hmm. Well, the other heavy hitters of the division finally show up, and they decide, and I mean, right or wrong, they decide they're going to go in the house and get this guy. And all the rookies at the scene are in the back. And we're in the back. There's a detached garage from the house. And it's vacant. Or it's fallen down. It's like an old barn, basically. But there's no doors on it. And we're all in the garage looking at the back door. Got our little guns out, holding them, thinking we're cool guys, right? Mm-hmm. Well, all the guys go inside to go get this dude. And, I mean, we're all waiting for something to happen. And then a few minutes later, they come walking out the back. And they're all holstering up their pistol. And, well, he's not inside, obviously. So the assumption is he went to the front, out the back, and he is halfway to Oklahoma by now. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, we've been out there for probably 15 minutes, if not longer at this point. Well, everybody starts going to get in their car and time to leave. And I start walking through this garage, and I look over. There's a car in the middle of the garage. It's old. It's covered in dust. And right in the middle of the car, there's a big smudge. And it's clean. And I guess I should be a cop. It took me a minute. I go, well, that's not right. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking, and I look up in the rafters, and about 6 feet away, there's a guy in the rafters looking at me. All right? And I'm like, well, crap. I mean, we've been standing under this guy for 15 minutes, right? And at which point, I do the whole Matrix, let's get out of the way move, you know, and I start hollering, all right? I mean, everybody's guns up, we're going home, all right? And guns coming back out, you know, the whole 9 yards. And I guess I'm not being very clear, or people aren't understanding what I'm saying or why I'm screaming. All right, maybe I'm just thinking the stupid rookie's lost his mind.
You saw a spider or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. They don't get it. So I've come out of the garage. I've got my gun out. I'm pointing it at the ceiling. I can't see him at this point. And Senior Corporal Abel Lopez, he's on the streets at the time. He's on the other side of this garage, and he sees me, and he starts walking toward me through the garage. He's on the other side. Well, knowing now, because I've talked to him later about this, he didn't know what I was yelling about. So he was coming to see did I see that spider? You know, he's going to come, come save me. And I'm thinking when he's walking toward me, oh, we're going to get this guy.
Oh,
right. It's like, well, he's coming in. I guess he can't go in by himself, so I got to go in with him. Well, as soon as I poke my little head around that corner, that's when the flash happens and the bang happens, and he's done fired a round at me, all right? And he is very, very close to me, and I don't know how he missed. I really don't, right? And now everybody knows what I was yelling about. And now you see cops running everywhere, right? Everybody's grabbing a piece of cover and trying to figure out what's going on. And Chad Smith, he's not with the department anymore, but he was out there. He makes a great shot. He shoots through the ceiling, and he can see through the ceiling where the guy's at, right? And it's a small hole, and he makes a great shot. Hits the guy in the leg, right? Pulls him out of and basically the force makes him come on down, and he falls out of the ceiling, and he lands on the ground, and we all swarm him and put him in handcuffs and everything else, right? Well, my adrenaline's like through the roof. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you're a rookie.
Yeah, no one knows who I am. They know I'm Tony Weiskopf's rookie. They don't know they don't know my name. I mean, nothing, right? And I'm standing there, and well, now Chad's been in the shooting, and knowing now that's an officer-involved shooting, it's all about Chad at this point.
Right.
I mean, okay, we got to quarantine him. We got to do what's best for him. We got to protect the scene, all that. And I don't know any better. I'm just standing around waiting for someone to tell me what to do. Well, about that time, Southeast gets in chase with our kidnapping suspects that we had put the bolo out in right before this happened, right? And me and Amy are sitting there looking at each other, and I think, is that Cadillac we put that bolo out on? And she's like, I think so, because now they're asking if we've done a report.
Yeah.
And they're over near the border, right, of between Southwest and Southeast.
Right.
Well, I tell Amy, let's go. So we go, and we become number 3 in this chase. Right now, I've literally just left this scene at Waco where I'm basically
got shot at
and peed on myself a little bit,
yeah.
Right? And we get in this little car chase, and it ends peacefully or whatnot. And one of my classmates is there, and he sees me, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I just had a bad.
My pants are wet."
Yeah, bad situation, right? I don't know if I can go to the bathroom ever again, right? And he's like, "Oh, well, why are you here?" And I'm like, "Well, y'all got in chase with our vehicle. We had to come. Ain't that?" He's like, "Ain't that how this works?" And about that time, Sergeant Steve Bishop gets on the radio, and he's like, "Is there a Fox or a Ford or somebody working here? Somebody?" Yeah. And I'm like, "Foy, that's me." He's like, "You need to come back over here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we get back over there, and then they take my statement and all that, and then that's it. Back on the street we go, right? And I go home that night, and I've woke my wife up just a handful of times since I've been a cop. All right, this was the first one, and I probably got home at midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever it was, and I woke her up. I'm like, "Hey, wake up!" And she's like, "What is it?" I was like, "I need to talk to somebody. Something's going on here." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I can't do this every day.
Yeah.
If this is how this is going to be every single day, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this." And I tell her the story and everything, and she's like, "Well, do you need to talk to somebody?" I'm like, "I'm talking to you." Right? Yeah. Nobody. No, I don't need to talk to nobody else. No, I'm not going to tell nobody about this. So, and that was the extent of it. Like, nothing else ever was asked, and I get it, right? We're having an officer-involved shooting. It's concerned about Chad. Chad, and he was completely justified in it.
Right.
And, but the little rookie had been forgotten about, right? Or
that actually got shot at.
Yeah. And I mean, did he hit me? No. Right? And have I been shot at since? Yes. But it was different then, right? This one, I was still so new, so green, right?
Yeah, you weren't in the academy with your classmates with gun molds,
right?
Saying "pow" and
yeah.
Jacking off, with your classmates. This is real. A real bullet went by your head.
Yeah. And when I read the guy's statement, he said he aimed at our head because he knew we had body armor on, right? So I guess I'm glad he did at my head, because if he aimed for the body, who knows what he would have done?
Bigger target,
right? But bad situation for myself, but it also made you go, you know what? You don't need to get that tunnel vision either, right? Because we're thinking, Hibbett's told me to watch the back. I'm going to watch the back. He's the hard charger. He knows what's going on. I'm going to watch it. Maybe I need to look around a little bit, right? And I don't know. It took years later. Years went by. A couple years went by before I got shot at again. And when that happened, it was a little different. I've been on the street. I had a little seasoning behind me then, and it didn't bother me mentally as much, right? But honestly, for a couple years, anytime we do a building search, right?
It flashes across your mind.
Yeah, you're always thinking about it, and you're like, why is my armpit sweating all of a sudden?
Yeah.
But that's that one.
Well, no, these rookies, we have rookies in the academy right now. They could be out there on day one and be in an officer-involved shooting or a car chase or get shot themselves.
Absolutely.
And being that young and fresh out of the academy, of spending the 8+ months with your classmates acting as suspects or other officers acting as suspects, you still in the back of your mind know it's training. But when you get out there on the streets, it's real. These people like that are trying to kill you if they have to. And the guy that ran out, he was somebody else that wasn't even involved with the kidnapping?
Yeah, the kidnapping was completely unrelated to this shooting, right? So, and I just say the kidnapping portion just because we didn't do a good job that day of helping, and it was me, but helping the rookie, right? It's like, why are you letting a rookie that just got shot at go get in a car chase? Somebody needs, and it was an afterthought. I don't blame anybody for it, right? I really don't. It's one of those things that we just got to do better, right? I mean, they were focused on something else that day, and as they should have been, right?
Right.
But we just got to remember that everybody handles things a little differently, and I try to take that with me. I don't, with other, when I'm dealing with, especially a young officer, really any officer, but especially a young officer, because you're like, they're not used to this yet. This job's rugged. Things happen,
No, I remember you it's 20 years later. I had almost 20 years on. I was working for you, and there's something that happened. You kept checking up on me, and I remember thinking, hey, what the hell is he talking about here? I'm good, but I noticed that you were checking up on me on something that happened just to make sure I was okay. I don't know if you remember that quite a few times. Mm-hmm. House over there on Cardinal. Anyway, okay. What type of work did you gravitate to at Southwest?
I liked it all, honestly. It just kind of depends on when I was brand new. I was probably doing calls like everyone else because I didn't know how to do anything else. And then, you transition to, you start messing with some of the drug users, right? And getting the rock droppers or whatnot. Then
you want the dealers.
Now you want the dealers, right?
Yeah.
And then that steps up your game. And then you start, you start doing, figuring out gang stuff. And I say gang stuff because, I'm from nowhere, Louisiana. I didn't grow up in Oak Cliff, and all of a sudden you got all these gangs and these groups, and you feel like you're on TV and stuff like that. So I thought the gang aspect was cool. It didn't matter to me, Joe. It really didn't. I wanted to go to jail once a day. That was my goal. Once a day. Whatever we're going to go, we're going to go for. But if I can't find somebody in the streets of Oak Cliff to take to jail for breaking the law, I probably was being lazy, right?
Yeah.
So,
you mentioned the gang unit. Describe how you became the liaison to the gang unit, and basically that springboarded you to become a member of the gang unit.
Well, back then they had what we called red beats. This is before tags and everything. And the first week they unveiled red beats. My beat was 444. It was Keystone Lancaster at the VA hospital area, and that was that was it. So I had the first red beat in Southwest, and they put me and my partner on special assignment that day. Or that week, and it was at the time Lieutenant Christina Smith said, y'all are on special assignment all week, just go put people in jail, do something, be visible out there. Oh, yes ma'am. So we did, and we did it pretty good for that week, right? It was a couple times a day we're going to jail and all in that same area, and the next week that beat wasn't a red beat, right? So
turned it purple.
Yeah, turned it a little bit. Now it was going to go back, but it
was
what it was. Well, we had two gang liaison officers at Southwest at the time, Hector Roa and John Puente, and both of them had went to the gang unit officially, and they were the gang liaison officers. Well, she decided that was a need that she wanted to fill, so she asked me and my partner if we wanted to do it.
Who was your partner?
A guy named Corey Adams. He's over at South Central now. And I'm like, well, sure. What do I know about gangs? I'm, like I said, country boy from nowhere, Louisiana, and you want me to work gangs? Sure, why not? But we rode with Hector and John for a couple weeks. They kind of showed us what we were supposed to do, right? And then they turned us loose. And that was a train wreck for the first couple months as we're trying to figure it out and what we're supposed to be doing, because gang unit job is not about always arresting them. It's about talking to them,
right?
And learning how to talk to them and being yourself at the same time was hard, but it was, I can say rewarding, but it was definitely a skill I didn't have. And when I left, it's a skill I did have, because you'll hear our officers talking to people and they'll try to act like they're somebody they're not, right? So there's no reason for me. There's no reason for me to try to act like that I am a Hispanic kid from Oak Cliff. Obviously I'm not. So
Obviously.
obviously, right? So there's no reason for me to try to pretend that I am and try to relate to them in that type of aspect. But I can relate to them as a person, right? And reason with them using common sense, and we got more in common than we got in differences, right? And getting to that point, because it's not a crime to be a gang member, but to get a gang member to tell you they're a gang member, right? It's almost like playing the game I win, which kind of my philosophy when we're talking about the streets, right? I win. I'm asking you questions, and you need to tell me. And it's like, well, maybe I don't have to, maybe I do. And well, I bet we can figure this out. And you might spend 20 minutes getting a gang guy to admit something, but I don't know, rewarding.
What's like a street interview, like for like a detective would? You're getting rapport, and hope that it builds on something. And at the very least, you're gathering intel on that person.
Mm-hmm.
You were involved in an incident in 2006 where you stopped a future murder-suicide. Can you describe that?
Oh, yeah. I was at Zane and Davis Street, and a robbery comes out, and it's at Zane and Davis and Llewellyn. So I was at Davis and Zane, and it happened at Davis and Llewellyn, which is about 4 blocks away. It's not very far. And it was a black Toyota truck involved, and it said it was robbing the business. And normally that's a lights and sirens code 3 type of call. But I'm literally 4 blocks away. I'm like, there's no point turning my stuff on. I'm right here. So I beat feet down there, and when I get to the parking lot, it's a little bodega, sell cigarettes and, drinks. That's about it. And there's the black truck in the front, and there's this older lady standing in front of the doorway, and she's just looking in, right? Just nonchalantly looking in the business. And I'm like, this is some type of deal. This ain't real. So I get on the radio and I tell the dispatcher, hey, this is, the truck's here. I was like, but it's not going to be nothing to it. And the dispatcher, a guy named Mike Freeman at the time, he's like, Foy, wait on your cover. And I'm like, 10-4. And I sit there and I'm like, I ain't waiting on my cover. I got this. And it's right there at detail time. Like, I think I came in at 3 o'clock. So the 4 o'clock detail is they're still having detail in the detail room. So we only got about half the cops on the street at this point. And I walk up to the door, and the little old lady's still standing there, and I look at her, and she looks at me, and she just kind of shrugs her shoulders and walks off. And I was like, oh, well, this ain't nothing to it. So I poke my head around the corner, all right? And when I do, there's a guy with a rifle pointing it at something. And I have one of those Freudian slips, I guess, right? I go, fuck.
Yeah.
And I pull my gun up, all right? And at which point, he starts to swing it around at me, all right? And human reaction, I move my head, right? At which point the gun goes off. His gun goes off, right? And, of course, now you're checking yourself for holes real quick. You're like, what just happened?
Again, your head is getting shot at.
Like, what just happened here? This was a deal. This wasn't real. And then you get on the radio and you're like, I need help now.
Yeah.
Give me some people.
Now you want your cover.
Oh, I want them all, right? I
everybody.
want them all, I don't care what cops you send. Send them from New York. It doesn't matter. Just get me help, right? Well, we're sitting there, and all the guys and girls show up and help me out. And Sergeant Jack Means shows up, and he says, what happened? And I kind of tell him. He's like, what do you think happened? I was like, I don't know if he killed himself or he's shooting at me, but I've been yelling at him through this door, right? And I've heard nothing. He's like, well, you want to call SWAT? I'm like, I don't know, Sarge. I mean, whatever you want to do. And he's like, if you're given the choice, do we call SWAT or do we go in? And I'm like, well, Sarge, so in cop world, it's like, you got your boys around you looking at you, and you're like, well, let's go in.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm thinking in my head, of all things that I want to do in my life, going in that door right now is not anywhere in the top 1,000 things I want to do. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right? I do not want to do this, but I'm like, all right, well, the guys are looking, and we're going to do this, right? And we walk up to that door, and I'm like, well, my deal, I guess I'm going first, right? And Jack puts his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, if we're going to get shot, I'm going to get shot first. I'm going first. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, if you must.
Yeah, whatever you want, Sarge. And we go in there, and he's done shot himself, right? So we'll come to find out as we're sitting there processing the scene, right? He's dead. I mean, there's nobody else in this business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had showed up, and his girlfriend worked there, and they had a kid. And he comes in with a rifle, and he tells her, go get the kid. So she leaves, And he comes in with the rifle, mind you. I just want to make sure I'm real clear on that, right?
Right.
She goes and gets the kid and comes back to the business.
Reasonable.
Yeah. See, didn't call the cops, didn't say, hey, my husband just walked in with a rifle. No, she came back as we're out there now processing this thing and tells us all this, right? And he had a truckload of ammunition. I mean, like hundreds of rounds in that black Toyota that he had. So, I mean, I don't know because he obviously left a piece of them in that bodega, so we'll never know what the true intention was. But I don't know if he was going to kill them and then kill himself, or if his intention was to kill himself in front of them. I'll never know. All right, and she didn't know. But wait on your cover, guys. Always, wait on your cover.
Well, him showing up with that much ammo.
Yeah,
you don't need that much ammo to kill yourself and kill a
I don't know
wife and a
who
kid.
Who knows what he's going to do?
Damn. Were you part of the gang unit by then?
No.
Okay.
Still in Southwest at that point.
All right. I'm going to get into the gang unit. Darian Loera was on an earlier episode, and he discussed from his perspective what the gang unit was to the department, how it was looked at by other officers that were on the outside looking in. I know how I looked at the gang unit at that time. They're very prestigious. They were the go-to unit by really all the robbery, assaults, homicide. They went to you guys for a lot of their That was before we had fugitive unit. They went to you guys for a lot of their wanted people. Can you describe that from your perspective? Can you describe what the gang unit was at that time when you got over to it?
The gang unit at that point, in my mind, was the best unit on the police department. Right now,
I agree.
I'm biased. I mean, I was there, so I know that. They always showed up. They're always out there. They got to wear the cool little BDUs that said gang unit on the back. And I don't know, to my impression looking from the outside looking in is they walked between the raindrops, right? They did what they needed to do. They were always chasing bad guys. And one thing about the gang unit, everybody you go after is a true bad guy, right? They're gang members, right? While it's not a crime to be a gang member, there are gang members, and to be a gang member, you got to do bad things, right?
Right.
It's not somebody that made a mistake or had an emotional moment. These are bad guys, right?
They chose to be bad guys for a reason.
And there's a whole unit dedicated to them, right? It's like, I want to do this, right? And of course, you watch, the TV and colors and all that silly stuff, right? And you're like, oh, that's what I want to do, right? So opportunity came, and I'd been doing the gang liaison at Southwest for a couple of years. I put my name in, and I got to go, and that's where the gang unit as an officer was the funnest part of my career, except for a bad day, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But and I say bad day, the really bad day, and a really bad time for a few months there.
Yeah, years actually.
Yeah.
While you were at the gang unit, what was your favorite thing to do while you were there, other than just throw bad guys in jail? What did you like to do, and how did you sharpen your knives over there in growing as an officer?
Yeah, my favorite thing to do over there is probably talking shit, just like now. But
right.
When I got there, I had a certain skill set. Like I had taken my ability to put people in jail for obscure reasons, right? And I say obscure reasons, like things that you didn't think of normal basis. Resisting search, not resisting arrest, but resisting search. I mean, just, can we do this today? Let's see if we can do this today, right?
Let's make it fit.
Yeah, and I'd gotten to a level where, okay, I'm comfortable with this, and I'd gotten fairly comfortable with search and seizure when it came to cars and houses, right? But going to the gang unit, we're dealing with a lot of arrest warrants at this point, which the rules are a little different now, and kind of got to step up your game, right? So the game then became, I'm still going to jail every day, and it's like, how many gang cards can I get? How many people can I get them to tell me something that they're not normally going to tell me?
Goals.
Yeah. As you know, Joe, I'm very I'm goal driven or target driven, however you want to call it, right? So, and then I got to start working with a great group of people, right? Now, did we always fight and get along? No, we fought quite a bit, right? Internally, but families fight, right?
Right.
And I met I met Darian, I met Tina, and plenty of others, but me, Darian, and Tina, we're kind of three musketeers. We really we kind of gravitated toward one another, and we didn't ride three-man, but if they were going to get into something, I was probably around the corner. If I was going to get into something, they were probably not too far away.
Right.
And we had a good group of guys and girls over there at that point in time. Just phenomenal.
You talked about one of the darkest days DPD. It happened on January 6, 2009. You want to get into that and talk about that incident?
So November 2008. I'm going to go back a little bit before that, okay?
Okay.
November 2008, Norm Smith, he's always chasing a warrant. He's always going to chase a warrant. I mean, he would always have 10 guys. He's looking for all 10 of these guys. And we did this every day. All right. So Norm would go, hey, I got this guy. We're looking for him. We're going to go to this place and we're going to arrest him, or, this is the plan or whatnot. This was almost a daily event. Well, this day is in November of 08. It's cold and it's rainy. And we go out to 4950 Wadsworth, and he's looking for some guy. All right. And I say some guy because it didn't matter what we were looking for. Norm said this guy's wanted. We're going to go do what we do and put him in jail. Well, the plan was the gang unit was going to surround this apartment complex, and he's hanging out in the courtyard, according to the person Norm was talking to. Me and Darian were going to exit our cars. We were going to go into the courtyard and flush him out to one of the people on the perimeter because we were expecting him to run. And that was the plan. So when we got there, at that point, I wasn't familiar with the complex. And I just knew we're going to the courtyard and we're going to run. And Darian was the long-distance runner. And I was
Still is.
Yeah. And I was the short-distance runner, right? And if I didn't get you in 100 yards, I was done. But hopefully Darian pick you up after that, right? Well, when we hit the courtyard, we're looking. I mean, we're going through. We don't see nothing. Well, come to find out, that complex has 2 courtyards, and he's in the other one. And we didn't know that. Well, now he's seen all the cars surround that first one, and the game is now afoot. So we transition to the second courtyard, and Oak Cliff Olympics begin. Right?
Yeah.
We're up the stairs, down the stairs, around the bend, doing all this stuff. And I'm getting tired. I mean, Darian's doing good. I got to give Laura credit on this one. He's up the stairs, he's going, he's after the guy, and I'm like, oh crap. And the guy he's coming down. Now Darian's getting tired, and I've recharged a little bit. So here I come again, right? Tina had moved her car around the other side, and everybody's getting out now. This guy had jumped on the hood of this car and hit the fence, right? I mean, put a footprint right on the top of her car, all right? And there I am. I mean, I am literally 10 feet behind this guy when he hits that fence. And he's over it, and like he's going over the fence, and I'm jumping up, and I'm like tagging his foot, right? I'm like, oh. And now I got to get over this fence. And we get in the fence, and it's rainy, it's cold, and around that complex is a bunch of woods.
Yeah.
So we're out there, and we look around for a little while, and we never find him. I get done, I'm cold, I'm wet, and I'm mad. All right, so that's that situation.
Okay.
Fast forward about a month, my wife has our son, and I go out on family medical leave. Planned on going out for at least a couple months. Well, after 3 weeks, I realize that there is nothing I can do at the house. My baby doesn't want me in the middle of the night, right? He wants my wife.
Right.
Because, Dad don't have the breakfast, I guess, right?
You didn't have the right equipment.
Yeah, no. And I tried, right? I'm
Right.
like, hey, you get up and you're like, I want her to get some sleep tonight and I'll rock him and all this. And it's just not working, right? And so I'm like, I'm just wasting time. I'm making myself frustrated. So we talked and I was like, I'm going to go back to work. And she's like, okay. So I went back to work early, all right? So now January 6th was my second day back. And we're going to run warrants. And when I say run warrants, our warrants are a lot different than what SWAT talks about. SWAT's going to, have a good plan, and they're going to, really walk through it, and then it's going to be very deliberate.
Yours is draw a play in the sand and just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to do 4 or 5, 10 of them a day, right? And at that time, now I want nobody to know that. Is that the smart way to do it? No, it wasn't, but that's what we did at the time, right? So at 6 a.m, we meet up, and we go over to Pleasant Grove for some warrant, someone in Norm's warrants, and he's like, I was here yesterday. If that car's in the driveway, this guy is here. Now, I don't know what this guy was about, but this is unrelated. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, Jeremy, you go to the back. I'm going to knock on the front door. If I don't get an answer, I'm going to call you on the radio, and I want you to open the back door.
All right.
I'm like, okay, Norm, that's what you want. So they're knocking on the front, and there's a lot of us out there. And as he's knocking, he gets on the radio, Jeremy, Jeremy, do your thing. So I started opening up the back door. About that time, this little old lady opens the back door. And we rush the house. We're looking for him. He's not there. All right. And we leave, and I'm giving Norm all sorts of crap. I was like, he done made me scare this old woman half to death. Right. There's no reason for this, Norm. You said he was there, and I'm picking at the scab, right?
Right.
I really am. Well, everything in the gang unit those days was a steak dinner, right? So we're gonna make a bet. It's for a steak dinner, right? So we make a bet that he can't have that guy in custody by the end of the day, right? No shit. By lunchtime, Norm had that guy in custody, right?
So you had the steak. You had the.
I owe Norm. I still to this day owe Norm a steak
right.
dinner, right? He has this guy in custody. That's what kind of cop he was, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and if you've ever chased warrants, you're looking for somebody that don't want to be found. They're not. It's not easy, right?
No, it's not.
You got to call on every snitch. You got to look at some. You got to do some computer stuff. And Norm wasn't doing computer stuff. I tell you that right now. But he had that guy in custody by noon, and of course he wins, right? He totally won, right? So the whole day is gone. I mean, everybody's, normally we would run together up until lunchtime or whatever time we were running. And then after that, we'd all split off to our respective divisions, which mine was Southwest at the time and Norm's was Southeast. All right. So the day is over. It's 5:45 at night. All right. We've been at work almost 12 hours at this point. Everybody's in the gang office. And I hear Norm walking through the gang office. And I can hear him asking people to come with him to run some warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And what we called our section of the gang office was the trailer park, because it's the gang office, and this was where the four white guys were at.
Yeah,
right.
And you lead the charge.
Nah, maybe. And I hear him going, and I hear people saying, "No, Norm, we've been here since 6 this morning. No, not today, man. Not today. Not today." And he goes to the next person, and same thing. And I hear him coming. I'm like, I don't want to do this today. I'm tired. And he gets over to me, and he's like, Jeremy. All right. He'd always say my name like multiple times when he wanted something, right? He's like, come on, I got this guy. He's wanting for this. And I'm like, Norm, I don't want to, man. I'm going house. He's like, come on, man. You remember back a couple months ago, this was the guy that ran from us over on, that apartment complex. I'm like, what are you talking about? People run from us all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, the one that jumped on top of Tina's car? I'm like, oh.
Like, wait a minute.
That guy? Oh, hell yeah. Let's go get him. And I stand up and I guilt 5 other people in the gang unit, right? Let's go, guys. No, come on, we're going. Yeah, we're going. I want to see the sequel. No, screw that guy, right? I mean, I got wet, right? Yeah, let's go do this.
Bad guy won that day.
Yeah, and I'm like, let's go. And I guilt 5 more people into coming with us that night. All right, well, 4 and a supervisor. And I'm saying these for a few reasons, because I'm leading up to something it's a series of events where I had a lot of problems with this after the fact. Right. All right. So we all load up and we're heading to Wadsworth. And I had called my wife on the way and said, hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late, but this ain't going to take long. Because Norm had already agreed, hey, we get him in custody, he's going to take him to jail, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this won't take too long, and then I'll be heading the house. And she's like, okay. Well, we're going down 45, and we're about to exit Loop 12, or Ledbetter. And Norm calls me, and he goes, okay, hey, Jeremy, you go to the back, and I'm going to go to the front. You take Tina and John, and I'm going to take Mario Craig to the front. I'm like, okay. And Rolo was there. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Well, when we get there, we park down the way of the apartment complex. And we start sliding down. We don't want everybody to see us, so we're kind of sliding down the side of the building. And the apartment that Norm had thought he was in, I don't remember the door number, but it wasn't where it said it was. When I come around the corner, the door is right in front of me. All right. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm right here at the door. And I look over at Norm. He's coming down the other side, on the other side of the building, and I see him, and I just make a hand motion. I'm like, hey, it's right here. And I was like, I'll do it. And he waves me off and points to the back. I'm like, okay, now that's not how we operated back then. Normally, when we were going after a bad guy, right, me or Darian would go to the front, right, and we would take the door, all right, we'd go inside, we'd throw everybody around, put everybody in handcuffs, do all the cool guy cop stuff, right? And then Norm would come in and smooth it all over, get the guy he wanted or get the information he needed or whatever the case may be, right?
Right.
But for whatever reason that day, Norm's blowing me off, telling me to go to the back, all right? And Darian, his Mexico, Las Vegas, I can't remember exactly where. He wasn't in town. I can't remember where he was at.
Mexico, I believe.
Okay. And I'm like, well, okay. So me, Tina, and John Puente are around the side of the house, or side of this apartment. And the apartment, the apartment that he's in is boarded up. Like, I mean, it's got plywood over the windows. And we're sitting there and we're waiting. I was like, well, he can't get out the back. Not very easy, but let's stick to the plan. You know, I say plan, the 2-minute phone conversation I had with him on the phone, right? When we start hearing a loud banging noise. And Tina looks at me, she's like, what's that? I'm like, I don't know. I guess he's opening the door or something. I don't know. And I was like, go up there and look. And at which point she goes over there to the side to look. And Tina, I love you. I just want you to know that. But when she comes around that corner, she gets to screaming. And this ain't let me see your hands type of screaming. This is a horror movie scream, right? And that's not what Tina does. That's not my Tina, right? And I don't know what's going on. So I go over to, I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't really know. And I go around the corner, at which point I see Norm, right? He's been shot at this point. He's shot, right? Been shot in the face. He's dead. There's no doubt in my mind to this day. I mean, that this is one of those bad things, right? And at this point, I look down, I see that, and I look over and I see Craig Redden shooting at the door, right? Now, science proves me wrong, right? I know this, and this is where your brain fills in gaps, right? My brain, to this day, stack of Bibles, hand to God, however you want to put it, right, tells me that I saw Craig shooting 3 rounds into that door. Science tells me that he shot 1 round in that door and 2 rounds elsewhere, right? And that's my brain putting it together, right? I know that, but you can't tell me different.
Right.
I mean, you can't. I know what I know. I say I know what I saw. I know what I think I saw anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, Norm's on the ground. Greg shooting. I don't know what the hell's happened. I just know we're in a bad situation, right? So it's like, okay, we gotta get off the X, right? So we run up to get Norm, and I've got my gun pointed at the front door, and I reach down to grab Norm. Now Norm is 280, 300 pounds, 6'4" maybe. He's a big fella. Mm-hmm. And I reach down and I grab him by the shirt collar, right? And you know, in your mind, adrenaline's going to kick in. You're going to be fine, right? And then I literally pull, and when I pull, nothing happens, right? Nothing, absolutely nothing happens. And I'm like, well, crap. And then John comes up, and we both try, same thing, right? It ain't happening, right? We cannot budge him one-handed like we are, right? Just can't. At which point, Craig Redden now comes up. Craig holsters up. I step in front. Craig reaches down. Him and John are able to pull Norm back and pull him out to safety. I say safety, away from the front door, right? And we had parked so far away, they went ahead and took him all the way down to our squad cars, right? And this, we didn't have we had no good plan, right? We didn't.
You can't plan for that.
Well, we did, but Joe, we can't plan for what happened, right? But we were operating kind of fast and loose, right?
Yes.
And the department,
yes,
responded accordingly afterwards. But we didn't have our radios on, or we didn't have them on the right channel. So I got on channel 3 because it's not too long after South Central had been built, and no one was thinking about South Central. This is Southeast. And when they go, where do you, I'm trying to call for help, and I'm going Ledbetter and 45. I don't know 4950 Wadsworth. I'm just like, Ledbetter and 45 apartment complex, all I know. And there's about 1,000 apartment complexes right there, right? Tina flips over to 5. She's yelling on channel 5. Mario Gomez, he has enough fortitude to go. They were on channel 7. He gets on there, and he had worked Southeast. He knew that this was 4950 Wadsworth. He got on there and got us the cover and DFD on their way. So we're still on the front door. Or I'm on the front door. Tina's back there with Norm, and she's trying to help him. Now, what do you do for someone shot in the face? I mean, you can't put a tourniquet on it.
Right.
There's nothing you can do, but she's trying. I mean, we've laughed about it, but she's like, I'm trying to hold the wound together. I just don't know what to do. Right. And I say we laugh about it. It's gallows humor. I mean, right. It's a very sad situation, but she's trying to do that. John's on the front door with me, and we're yelling at these guys, or I'm yelling at these guys to come out. And we're yelling about everything you can think of to get them to come out. We don't know who shot Norm. We have no idea. Well, they start coming out. Now, South Central Patrol started showing up, and they're helping with perimeter and whatnot. SWAT's on their way. But the bad guys start coming out. First guy that comes out goes to Mario, I believe. Second guy comes out, goes to Mario side, because we're on different ends. Third guy comes out, is the guy that we were there looking for, and he's coming to me. Right? And he's walking to me, and he doesn't want to come. I say walking, he's crawling, right? He's crawling. He doesn't want to come to me. I don't know if it's what I've said, if it's the look in my face. I don't know what he's thinking about, right? I know what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Right? And Norm has dropped his gun when he got hit. So his gun's laying on the ground there. And I remember seeing him crawling backwards, and then I see the gun. He doesn't know the gun's there. I know the gun's there. And I have a bad thought. End it now. Right? And God's looking out for me that day, because he goes, nope. And the guy starts crawling back toward me. Right? And we take him into custody and take him on down. SWAT team gets there, and they're like, who y'all looking for? None of us, I don't know his name. That was the guy. Is he the one that shot Norm? I have no idea. What's he wanted for? Aggravated assault, I think. Come to find out, he's wanted for aggravated robbery out of Arlington. But I remember going, aggravated assault, maybe? It was some other city, I don't know. What's his name? I have no idea. And that's when I say we didn't have a good plan.
Yeah.
Right? Who knows, Norm? I don't know what else to tell you. How many people are in there? I have no idea. I know nothing about this situation other than Norm said, bad guys here, we're going to get said bad guy. I'm supposed to be home for dinner. You know? Situation, you know, there was nobody else was in the apartment, but come to find out, the first guy that came out was the one that actually shot Norm. Right? So glad nothing else happened. Right? Because I would have swore it'd been the guy we were looking for. Right? I mean, why would the first guy, the one that actually shot Norm, he hadn't been arrested since he was 15. He was almost 30 years old. Right? Now he's in a dope trap, so he's not living right by any means, right? But he's made it 15 years between arrest and Oak Cliff. Right? So he probably wasn't doing horrible things for those 15 years. He probably was those last year or so, right? But he wasn't the guy I would have thought, right? You know, I mean, you're thinking we're going after the hardened felon. This guy over here is robbing people. That's the guy that shot him. He's the one that's got something to gain off this, right? No idea. And that changed how the department did warrants. They put an official warrant school on, and people think the department messes up a lot, and they do at certain things. They got this one right? We needed a leash. Right, we did. We needed to think things through a little bit better. We truly did. I mean, nothing we did that day got Norm killed. The guy that pulled the trigger got Norm killed, 100%. Right, but looking back on it, I go, if I had caught that guy in November, right, why couldn't I have been a little bit faster? Why did I have to smoke that last cigarette? Right.
Yeah.
And I know that's not my fault, right? And then I go, well, if I had just stayed home for another week on family medical leave, we wouldn't have been out there, because the day he went around that, or I just stood my ground. The day he went around the gang office, just go, no, Norm, I'm going home. Going home. Because if I hadn't stood up and said, and started guilting people into helping, he was almost done. There was only 2 other people left. All right? And that's not enough people to go do anything. But I was adamant we were going to go do this. If I had just changed my mind a little bit, or any course of action, Norm could have still been here today, and we wouldn't be talking. Right? And I know in my heart that, look, stars lined up, bad things happened, right? But survivor's guilt, right?
Yeah, right. It's real.
That was years. I mean, years. And I mean, still to a point, I would say, right? But for the most part, I think I'm good now. But there was 3 or 4 years there, probably, where I'm like, this was my fault. This was my fault. And like I said, Joe, I know it. I know that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
But you can't help but do it when you think about it.
Well, life is it's just such a sequence of events that intertwine, and they just you can't plan for it, and fate kicked in, shitty fate kicked in, and like you said, the stars lined up, and that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I know that changed everything when it come to warrants and how they were run, and what were some of the lasting effects of the gang unit, and for you personally?
No, lasting effects of the gang unit. Well, even if you go to their office now, they've moved offices, but if you go to their office now, there's Norm everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Which is good. They need to. There's still a few guys that were there back then, but the guys that are there now, they need to know, hey, this happened.
Yeah.
Right? This happened, and it happened because we got complacent. Right. The gang unit changed. The next year, maybe not the next year. It was just, I can say business as usual, but because we did change our tactics, but it started changing. Some people left the gang unit, moved on. It wasn't the same. It just wasn't. We weren't as tight, right? When all this happened, I mean, the city came together. I mean, it was a huge thing when Norm was killed, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, we'd seen some officers pass in the line of duty, but until 7/7 happened, I'd never seen anything like what happened when Norm happened, right? I mean, I don't know why he had such an impact, but it definitely got us to thinking, right? And I remember when we got the warrant training and all this, right? The first warrant we're going to run afterwards, I'm the sergeant is trying to come up with it, and I walked up to him. I was like, I don't care where you put anyone, but you're putting me number one. And he's like, why? I'm like, I got to do this. Just put me number one. Just put me number one. I don't care, right? He's like, okay.
You had to prove to yourself, you think?
At that point,
that you were ready?
Well, yeah, because you're scared.
Right.
You're scared. I mean, look, last time you did this, something really bad happened, right? And last time this happened, normally I would have been at the door. That would have been me at the door, and I might have done it different than Norm. In fact, I know I would have opened the door differently than him, and maybe it would have worked out differently. I don't know. He could have shot me in the back of the head because I had a mule kicked it instead of trying to go through the front, right? I don't really know, right? But I needed to go number one. And we did that for a few warrants after that, right? Where, I don't care what everything else happens, but this guy's going, I'm going to that door, right? And then you're like, okay, you gotta let everybody else gets a chance, we gotta rotate this thing. But it definitely changed the gang unit, definitely changed my mentality on a lot of things. All right. The job was still fun, but before then it was all everything was fun. It's always fun, a couple bad days here and there, but it was always fun. Now the job was fun, but we're gonna have safe fun, or try to have safer fun anyway, right?
Well, yeah, Norm was he was so revered by the community, even by a lot of the gang members out there. They respected the hell out of Norm, and I remember after that happened going to drug houses at Southeast, and they would talk about Norm and Big Russian and talking about, like saying, hey, sorry for your loss. Mm-hmm. These are guys I'm arresting. We're telling me, sorry for your loss. And Norm, that's how he was looked at by not only the community, but also just the hooks out there. It was fascinating. It was a very crazy time for the department, and especially for that unit, because I worked a lot with the gang unit at the time, and had relationships with a lot of you guys that last to this day. Did you take anything from that incident that you told yourself that you would do different as a leader and as a supervisor if you were ever in that role?
Yep, not on my watch. Bad things are going to happen. Bad things, can't stop it, right? But it's not happening on my watch. And I know that's being naive and being very general, right? I can't control that. Can't control the uncontrollable. But if it's going to happen on my watch, then I'm 100% to blame, right? So if I'm 100% to blame, it has to be my way. So, you said something, you worked for me before. It's been kind of difficult.
No, it was not. It was not difficult.
But people can say it's a control freak thing. I don't know. But if it's, especially as a first line supervisor, it's for me to feel comfortable with whatever we're doing, it has to be my way, 100%. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if it's a safer way of doing it, feel free to tell me. But if we're going to start cutting corners or operating, looser, I have to be behind it. And if I can't be behind it, we ain't doing it. Period. And that helped define. I'm not gonna say that one moment's didn't define my whole leadership style, because I had a whole Army career before that one guy in particular that kind of showed me what I thought I needed to do. But when it came to the officer safety aspect of it, January 6, 2009, 100%.
That gave you your why.
Yeah.
As a leader.
Yep.
No, I remember you pulling me to the side and back around back of a dope house and go into a dope house at South Central. Hey, come here. And I had only been there a week.
Yeah. I remember.
No, yeah. Oh, I do too.
You're probably thinking, why did I come to South Central?
Can I get back to Southeast? Shit. No, I respect that, and I understand it. I understand that if you don't want anybody under your wing or under your command or anybody to have happened to them what happened in 2009 at Wadsworth.
Absolutely.
When did you decide to move on up?
I was sitting in the gang office one day, and Chief Cato would come down to the gang unit occasionally. He used to be the commander out there, and he would come down, and when he needed to get away from the other stars or come out of the clouds for a little bit, he'd come down to the gang office and decompress, right? I had literally just gotten into a fight with one of the detectives. I say a fight, an argument with one of the detectives that day, and I had go figure. And I'd made a list of rules, and I say, and they were very tongue in cheek, right? And I stuck them on my desk. It's like, if you're a detective, do not, talk to me unless, one, you're willing to go to jail with me. Two, don't ever ask me to find someone dirty. You'll be lucky if we find them. And it just kind of went on and on and on and on and on, right? And because I got pissed off, right? Anyway, I see Cato in the office, and I usually if he was there, unless he was talking to the guys, I didn't mess with him, because it's usually his zen moment, And
yeah.
He's walking around. He gets over to my desk and he starts reading the rules, and he starts laughing. And he's like, "You taking that test?" And I'm like, "I don't know, Chief. I got a good gig. I got to take on car. I'm in the gang unit. I get to run around, do, cop work with my friends. We go after bad people." And he's like, "Do you ever bitch about the department?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, every day. Every single day." And he's like, "Well, you got a chance to sit at the table and you're not taking it? Then you a fool and don't ever complain again." And then he walked away. And I don't know if you knew Charlie Cato or not. I think you did, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He didn't just walk away. Usually, you sit there and he just talk. He said that and walked away. And I'm like, it's like a mic drop moment for me.
Yeah, he had a point to prove.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, he's got a point. And that made me take the sergeant's test. I'm like, yeah, why not? He's right. I can tell you all the ways in the world to fix this department, but I can't do that as a corporal in the gang unit.
Yeah, if you're down there at the bottom looking up, bitching and moaning, you're just down there with a bunch of other people doing the same.
Exactly.
You have to move up if you want to have change and you want to enact change yourself, right?
Correct.
You do have a unique leadership style. It's hard-nosed, and I'm guessing that came from January 6th, 2009, and your military background.
There was a guy I was in the military with. He was our first sergeant. His name was James Tedioski, and he was intense. All right, just intense. And he would, I don't care what the job was, I don't care what the target was, it was getting done. It was going to get done, period, right? And, there was days I hated the guy, just hated him, right? And there are other days like, I can't believe we actually just did this, right? We literally moved a trailer, and I say a trailer, a house trailer, with about 100 guys. We picked it up, right? Picked it up and moved it probably 40 feet, right? Because he's like, we can do this. And he figured out how we were going to do it, and we literally picked it up with our hands. You just never think something like that. Have you ever seen somebody picking up a mobile home and walking down the street with it? Because that's what we did.
In a Marvel movie.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we did. And we did it because he said we could, right? And I'm like, well, that's okay. I want to be that guy, right? And then January 6th kind of told me why I need to be that guy, right? So am I hard-nosed? Absolutely. I like things my way. and there's a, can I explain that? That's a reason for that. And I like targets, I guess, right? I'm not that guy that's going to say, I'm all go, no quit. Oh, no. I'll quit something in a heartbeat if I think it can't be done or if I think it's stupid, right?
Or go at it a different way.
Yeah. But if you tell me I can't do it and I know I can, well, you just woke up something you didn't want to wake up because it's going to get done. Tell me to paint this office here with a toothbrush. And you're like, you can't do that. Well, see you in about a week because it's going to get done, right? And that's kind of my motivation. So, every unit I've had is always like, how do we make this place better? How do we get from point A to point B the best way? And how do we have a decent time doing it? I can always say it's a fun time because it's not always fun, right? But there's this, this job's here for a reason. We're all here to, we all say we're here to help people, and that we truly are. But we were also here because, we probably didn't want an office job and we wanted to, be a cop. So let's go be cops. Let's go do that. And we're going to help some people along the way, and we're going to get some, bad guys off the street, and, whatever the situation is, but let's do it. Let's not just talk about it. So I'm kind of, let's do it. I guess that's the end of the day. That's what it is. Let's just get it done. Whatever it is, let's just do it.
You left the streets. I worked for you on South Central CRT,
Mm-hmm.
and you left and you went up to personnel, and you and I both saw a lot of writing on the wall at the time. I remember us talking about it out there at Cigarette Heights at this dope house, and both of us started reflecting and talking about things. And you go out to personnel, and after July 7th happened, and then and especially nowadays, as hard as it is to recruit people to want to become cops. What was your recipe for going out there? And you put over 80 recruits in one class, is that right?
Correct.
What approach did you take?
Well, when I left South Central, I went to the academy first.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'd worked the in-service for a little bit, and then I went to basic. Well, I was doing it in reverse because I did the FTO program. That was my job. And then I went to there to be the basic sergeant, which was the best job I've ever had, period. I wish, if I had never promoted, I don't think I could have made it 20 years out there, but I would love to have 5, all right? I think we could have just rocked and rolled, right? And then I went to personnel, right? So you got to see how to kick somebody out of the process or how to fire them the entire, FTO program, basic academy, and recruiting, right? So who do you need as a cop, right? I don't need somebody coming in. I don't need an all-American football player coming in. I'll take them, right? We'll take it all day. I'm more than, give me a soccer mom that's never done anything in her life. And if she's willing to learn and she's willing to be trained, we'll make her a cop. All right? And that was my philosophy in recruiting, right? I don't need you coming in with a skill set. I need you coming in willing to learn a skill set. And if you're willing to, it doesn't matter what you did prior to that, right? You sacked groceries, great. You were a cop in another agency, great. Are you willing to learn what we're going to teach you? And if you are, we'll get you there, right? If you are, right? I'm all about second chances when it came to that, right? You made a mistake when you were 20 years old. You're now 26 years old, and it wasn't an absolute disqualifier. Give them a chance. Let's see how they do. We were all kids once. And as far as that 80-something person class, we could have put 100 in that class, right? And I got told, stop. This is insane, right?
About sardines in there.
Well, we went to the academy, because a lot of people don't know this, but we went to the academy and was like, look, I got all the people in the world that you want. How do you want to do this? We can start 2 classes on the same day. We can do a class 2 weeks apart, but we've been told to hire, and we have brought them in. What do you want to do? And they chose to do it on the same class, because I got a lot of flack for that. It's too many people in a class. It's too many people in a class. You know this. You were out here. Yeah, I don't know if I'd have picked it that way, but they made it work. I got to give them that. They made it work, right? And we were just rocking and rolling. Like, we could have put 100. And I in my mind, I told you I'm kind of goal driven.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't telling people this at the time. I'm like, I want to put 100 people in this class.
Just to say you did it.
Just to say we did it, right? Let's get 100 people, right?
That'd have been nut to butt in that class sitting there working.
And you're going to lose 20% of a class either way. So at the end of the day, we'd have graduated 80, right?
Out of curiosity, how many graduated from that class?
It was in the 60s. I don't remember what the number was.
Damn good,
right? And I don't know how many are left at this point, right? But we right before that we had done a class of 60 something, which was the second largest one, and then we turned around and did the 80. I think it was 83 in that class, right? Which was the largest at the point. And we until we get a different facility, we shouldn't do it again, right? Not in one class, right? We start 2 classes on the same day. That'd be great, right? We could do 50 in each class. That wouldn't be a problem. But we did this after July 7th when a lot of the narrative out there was, people didn't want to be cops, right? But the recruiters went to work. They did a good job. We got them through background. We kept deadlines. We didn't let people languish just waiting for a response. If you applied, you're going to get an answer. And I kind of going back to my time, I applied 46 different places, and a lot of times it just sat. I never heard anything back. Of course. Right? And it's like, no, they get an answer one way or the other. They're going to get an answer. Yes, no, maybe, whatever. So
they can move on with their life, and you can move it on with trying to find more people back in there.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about the honor guard.
Okay.
You ran it for how long did you run that?
2013 or 14 until earlier this year.
Damn.
And I was in it from 08 until then, but I didn't become a supervisor until then.
Why is it important to you to run the honor guard and to honor the fallen? Because I've watched you guys work, and it's so impressive, and it's heartbreaking, but in my opinion, it is one of the most prestigious positions on the department is to honor our fallen and respect them.
So I went to a funeral, Hank Nava, out of Fort Worth. It was probably 05, 06. And I remember watching, they had some honor guard out there, and I was watching. And I'm like, that looks pretty sharp. And realizing that our SWAT team did our honor guard here, right? And at this point, I've been on long enough to know that that wasn't a duty that a lot of the SWAT guys really wanted to do. There were some that did, but most of them, that wasn't, they didn't want to do it, right? Well, Sergeant Joe Denemy, he was in SWAT equipment side at the time, I believe. And he had been pushing for years to do it, and he got the honor guard started in 08, right? And they put the applications out, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. No, give it a shot, right? And we started, and Denemy was a sergeant in charge of it. Paul Stokes was a lieutenant in charge of it. And, people, whatever they thought about Lieutenant Stokes or Chief Stokes or, whatnot, he was the right person at that right time, right? If you're starting a new unit that needs equipment and needs training and needs this and everybody's involved, he was the perfect person to be, because he got it done.
Yeah.
100% got it done, right? And we started doing it, and within, I think it was probably my first year, I did some retiree's funeral, and he was 80-something years old, and he's getting buried in a Dallas police uniform. 80-something years. He hadn't been on the department in probably 30 years, but he's getting buried in a Dallas police uniform because that's what defined, in his mind, what defined him. Mechanics don't do that. You don't see a mechanic getting, their greasy coveralls and getting buried in that. Doctors don't get buried in their scrubs.
No.
Right? But here's a cop, 30 years after the fact, hadn't arrested nobody probably in 30-something years, getting buried in his Dallas police uniform because he was a cop. And the family don't know us, but they know that badge. They know that badge, and they know that we didn't forget. And I say, because the way I say never forgotten. Well, I didn't even know you. But it's not that we have to know you. We knew who you were. We knew what you were about, right? No one's ever met, there's people in this department that's never met me or you, right? But they know 100% what we're about because we're cops. And you're like, this guy, gave 30, 40 years, however many years he gave to the department, right? And he died. 30 years later, he's still a cop in his mind. He's probably still telling cop stories, right? And his family's probably so sick of cop stories, but they also know this is the Dallas Police Department.
It defined him.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is why we do it. 100% why we do it. Right? It's for the families. It's not for anyone else. It's not for the officer that's in the coffin. It's not. He's gone. It's for that family that's sitting there watching. And honestly, it doesn't matter. It could be a long day, whatever they want. Whatever they want. They lost somebody. A life. They gave them a lifetime. We can give them 2 hours, 3 hours. You want us to stand, fold a flag? Absolutely. Any time of the day. So.
Well, July 7th, 2016, I was actually working for you And you were over the honor guard at that time, right?
Correct.
And you had to run all those funerals and all the ceremonies. How challenging was that? I know how challenging. I was with you and talked to you quite a bit.
So Sunday through that Saturday, it started for me Sunday when we got to a point where we could start actually doing some plans. I think I got about 16-hour days for that full week. And you're sitting around going, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how. A line of duty funeral for one officer is all hands on deck, pull out all the stops, and make this happen. And this is a national event. We have officers coming from across the world. And this is going to be huge. And we know this. And we have to do it right. We have to. And if we can't screw up any of it. I can't screw up, Michael Kroll's funeral, right? I can't. In anything I do for one of them, if the family wants it, we're going to do it for the other one, right? So, whatever they want, right? Blank check when it came to the honor guard. Whatever y'all want, this is what we're doing, all right? So we did 13 events in 5 days. I still remember that, and I say 30. That doesn't seem like a lot, except when you're talking about a line of duty funeral, because that is all day. And it was July, and those uniforms are made out of wool. And I'm looking at my people, and I'm forcing water and Gatorade. I'm doing the whole. And I know you weren't in the Army with it, but in the Army, drinking water was a thing. Like, drink water, you're just pushing it as hard as you can because we're going to fall out. We're going to be standing out there at some cemetery for hours, right? Sweating, can't move, and we did that in a week. Not one honor guard officer fell out, and we're out at the National Cemetery when we do Zamarripa's funeral, and I'm watching the crowd. And everyone in the crowd's dropping like flies. They're dropping just left and right. It's heat. It's the heat, right? This is the last event. Everybody's dehydrated. And the honor guard never complained. Not once did anyone complain that whole week. And the honor guard, before that, you get us all together, we're going to complain. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. That week, nobody complained once. And I say that. That's not a joke. It's not an exaggeration. Not one person told me I can't do this or, hey, it's hot. Not one time did anybody say a word. They did what their job was at that event, right? For that week, and for myself personally, it was work time. I knew 2 of the officers, but it's work time. Time to go to work, right? And that right after Zamarripa's funeral, he was the last one. I came back to South Central. I went back there into the equipment room, and I lost it for about 5 minutes, right? Just lost it. Because, you'd heard Amazing Grace. You'd heard the taps. You'd heard the 21 gun, right? And it's like, okay, I'm done working. I'm just done. And then you went home, and you're like, hopefully we never have to do that again because, it was just an emotional week.
Well, it was a roller coaster that it took forever to come down.
Oh, yeah.
You're continually going up, and then once you crashed, it came down. Yeah. And at that time, it just seemed like that law enforcement was under attack across the country. Because not long after that, the Baton Rouge incident came up. How hard was it to step down? And from running the honor guard, you had done such an amazing job with it.
I had left pre-2016 for 2 weeks, or I say 2 months, and I was like, I'm done. Then 7/7 happened, and you're like, well, okay. And I got brought in, and since I had done it the longest, I just took it over again. And then I had another little couple month break. I was trying to walk away from it, and situations dictated that I had to take it over again. And somebody else needs a turn. I had taken that unit in my mind as far as I could. I was out of ideas, and it's like when I took it over from Denemy. Denemy had his ideas on what he wanted to do, and he had taken it for 5 years to that point, right? And he was comfortable. And so when I took it, I had done a lot of new things with it, right? And now I was in the point where I was comfortable, right? And you can't do that. You can't homestead in that type of position. Bring somebody else in. They got different ideas, and they're going to do it better than you. And, hopefully I gave them a foundation that they can go do it better. because I'd love for them, to be the premier honor guard of the country. I mean, we already currently are of DFW, right? And I mean, Arlington, you might not agree, but they were the premier one for a long time, right? But we're the biggest, we're the best. So was it hard to step away? No. I find myself watching them at events, and in my mind, I'm criticizing them, right? Like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? But you know what? I ain't doing it. So shut up, Foy. Doesn't matter what you think.
It's somebody else's show.
It is. It's 100%. And the only reason I know, and anything I notice, it's probably because I did it for so long. I'm like, well, they shouldn't have done that, And it's like, get off your almighty horse here, buddy. It's not. They're doing a great job, and shut up. Right? And that's what I have to tell myself.
How many members are on the honor guard now?
Now it's probably around 40.
Wow. What did it start with?
25, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've had so much changeover over the years.
Yeah.
It's a shelf life. You shouldn't do it forever because it's volunteer. Like, this is not a full-time job. This is an addition to, right? And it can be feast or famine. You might not be doing anything for months, and the next thing you know, you're doing 13 events in 5 days. So.
No. In 2016, hell, you were my boss on CRT, and you had to set aside bitching about me and riding me to going into that role.
Well, I mean, are you serious or are you joking? Which one are you?
Anyway, moving forward. All right. You just got promoted to deputy chief. And from when I first met you from the gang unit, and I would never thought you would have a damn star on your collar.
Me neither.
What do you want? How do you want to make your mark now at this position? I know you just got it, but what are your initial thoughts? What do you want to do?
First, if I can make chief on this police department, that should be an inspiration to everyone, right? Like, hey, just try real hard. They'll promote you at some point, right? You don't have to be very smart.
I just drew a name out of a hat.
They might have, and that's fine, right? But it's true. You can be anything you want when you grow up, right? What do I want to leave? I want to move the department forward, and there's going to be people who aren't going to agree with probably the direction that I want to move certain aspects, right? That's fine. But when it's all said and done, I want to do more good than bad, right? And he goes, all right, well, he's hard to get along with, or he's hard to work for, or he's a hard taskmaster, or, he's a dick, whatever. But you know what? It's better than what it was, and that's because of him, right? That's the legacy I'd like to leave. Now, whether I do or not, I mean, time will tell, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. But I'm excited. I mean, we got Eddie Garcia is a good police chief. I mean, a great police chief, right? I mean, we got a cop as a police chief for a change. And nothing against the other chiefs that we've had. I'm sure, from what I knew of them, they were probably fine people. We got a cop. We need to ride this wave for as long as we can. Let's get some cop stuff done and see what happens. Because I think that's what our city deserves, right? We need cops doing cop things, which is community policing, which is arresting the right people. I mean, it is. So let's go do that, right? Because I mean, this job is fun, and I don't. It might not be fun for me or you like it was back in 2000, but I bet these rookies right now are still having a great time. They're probably saying the same things we were saying when we were out there running around Oak Cliff or South Dallas, going, "This is great." They're probably thinking the same thing, right? Or saying the same thing to each other. They're probably still going to ADARES and talking about some badass PI arrest they made, right? Like, right. Yeah, oh yeah, that was great, buddy. You found a drunk, great. But they're going to talk to each other about that kind of stuff, right? And I think they're probably having a good time too, just like we were, and just like they will 20 years from now.
Well, Chief, I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. I want to thank you for your service, for your friendship, and I can't tell you how proud I am for you to finally get that damn nice, shiny star on your collar. I still think it was like Chief Garcia did it like with a scratch off, like a lottery ticket, and Foy's name happened to pop up. But hey, I'm proud of you, and I look forward to seeing the legacy you're going to leave behind for DPD.
I appreciate it, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs. Mrs., hey, mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Down when you're lonely, I'll pull you up. Life leaves you heavy when the going gets tough. I'll be your shoulder, together we'll run up from the bottom, yeah, we'll rise above. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Give up on you. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far for the gold and the blue, I'll never give up on you.